here we go. We basically left off doing this box here, the second box last time, and now we're going to look at doing this. Now before we do that, we need to understand how the coordinate system works in Autocad, and for that there is a little tutorial here which is quite good. It only relates to one particular sort of line there, but nevertheless is a very good exercise to go through. But to get the basic idea of the coordinate system, I've got a drawing here which sort of gives you a bit of an overview of the whole thing. If this was our world, 0, 0 will be here, and every point on AutoCAD has its own unique number, much like the GPS system that we use in the cars and wherever else. So so if I was to go to a unique location in my world coordinate system, which is the default system that we have, an absolute coordinate would be, for example, something like 4, 5. Okay, 4 in the x and 5 in the y. That's an absolute coordinate relating back to 0, 0. All right. So if I was to type in, click the line command and go, for example, 4 we said, 4, 5, just like that, enter, it starts from there, which is fair enough, and it's pretty much the same idea as what they're saying here, except it's a bigger number, 115,105. So I'm starting my line from a known location or a given location. All right, so here it is. And then to finish off this line, I could, I might have been given another number, like here, for example, they've been given another number, and you just put that number in. Just so happens that, in coordinate terms, that top number is 10 bigger than the previous number, both in the x and the y. All right. So that's fine. Here we have, well, we could go almost 10, we'll probably be up here somewhere, so we could do that. So if we were to make the 4, I think I said 4, 5, does that, yeah, that lines up, 4, 5, so in other words, add 10 to the 4, that's 14, and add 10 to the 5 is 15. So if I went next, if I went 14, 15, all right, just like that, it's still getting the number from the 0, 0. It's counting from 0, 0. Here I am. So if I enter that, I finish it. So basically, the difference between there and there in the x is 10, and again in the y it's 10. All right. So how else could I have created that line? Well, I could have done it this way. I could have, and I will begin. Normally, we don't begin lines from like a location. Not normally, unless we have surveyors or something like that, and someone's giving us a coordinate. We normally wouldn't. If we're starting to draw a shape or a plate or a house or anything, we're just going to click somewhere, and wherever that is, that's it. We don't care about coordinates. What we do care though is with the next, where you click to create the line, how far away the next point in that line is. All right, relative to the previous one or the last one you clicked on. All right, so that's all we care about. And what we're caring about here in this example is that this point here, this up here, is actually 10 away from that bottom point there in that direction and 10 up the other way. So for example, I could recreate that exact angle but somewhere else, exact angle, exact length, but somewhere else by doing this. So if I click on here, as I said to you, we don't care where we click, so I suppose I'll just click here, wherever that is. I don't actually care what that is, I don't even know. All right? But I know from where I clicked last time, and now we're getting into what's called relative coordinates, and basically to the example, this example down here. Sorry, not that one. We missed it. Yes, we missed it. Polar. Relative coordinates. This one here. Sorry, I was talking about the wrong one. That's the first one. But anyway, and the next one is the relative coordinates. All right. So they both are, as you can see, those numbers are the same. They're both 10 apart. All right. Okay. So what I've done here is I click somewhere, And what I'm going to do now is put the at sign in front of it and go 10, 10. So I'm going 10 in the X and 10 in the Y. But because I put the at sign in front of it, it's not counting from 0, 0, which is all the way down in the middle there. All right, it's not counting from there, but it's actually starting to count from here. So what it's doing, that at sign, it's temporarily saying the 0, 0 is just where my pointer is now, where I clicked last. All right, so it starts counting 10 one way and 10 the other, or whatever number you put in the X and the Y. Okay, so if I just enter that now at 10, 10, it just goes like that, enter to finish. In theory, they should be exactly the same length and exactly the same angle. All right, so that's relative coordinates. If I then go and have a look here, there's some polar coordinates, and yeah, of course that angle there is at 45 degrees because X and the Y are the same number. So mathematically that angle in here is 45 degrees, just in there, right? So if that was 45 degrees and we used Mr. Pythagoras and work out that 10 squared, was it plus 10 squared equals the square root of whatever, then that there, in fact, the distance of that should be what this is saying here, which is 14.14. Let's just check that. How do we check what that is? Let's just use a measurer here. If I go down here, the distance command, or you can type in DI for distance. Get used to that, either typing it or clicking it if you can find it. DI for distance is a command that you've got to use all the time to double check stuff. I don't really want to see you using this to go and measure something. That's dimensioning, and that is dependent on the dimension settings. Dimension settings may be set so it rounds up to the nearest millimeter. Therefore, you're not going to find out if something is 14.14. It probably will tell you it's just 14, and you think it's wrong, but in fact it's right. So this command here will tell you the exact number, and it's dependent on, see down the bottom here in the coordinate system in the bottom left here in the status bar, it tells you where you are at any one time. See how I'm moving? Those numbers are moving down the bottom there, right? So now that's dependent on that, as in that's got 3 decimal points at the end of the number. So if it hasn't got decimal points at the end of it, obviously that's going to round up. The 14.14 will be 14 as well. And that you've got to go somewhere else to set that up. You've got to go into the units command to make sure you've got those decimal points set up to be right. All right. We won't go into that now, but let me just get over, do this distance command, which is there. So if I just check from here to up here, all right, make sure you got your endpoint on. So I'll just put my object snap on. Endpoint should be in there to here. All right, let's see what we got. We got, in fact, it's 14.14 to 142. So it's 14.142, in fact. All right. So if that's what it is, but round it up to 2 decimal points, it's 14.14. Okay, so if I was to recreate this again, but given this time the length of that line and the angle that it's going, I could do it this way. I'll go line. Now, just because I got this circle here doesn't mean I can draw within, I don't have to draw through there. I could draw anywhere. I could draw over here. And I can just type in at 14.14, 2 if you like, and put the 2 in there if you want, because we know it's to that accuracy at this point. And the angle symbol is shift key and where the comma is, and gives you the angle, and means now it's not receiving an X and a Y, but it's receiving a distance, and that's a distance and an angle, and that's how you do your polar input. All right, so if we go, the angle is 45. Why am I going 45? Because as you can see from our diagram here, 0 is the horizontal here, and we've been told that it's 45 degrees, which means it'll be just a bit above 0, in the positive. If it was minus 45, it would be going this direction. All right. If it was 135, it would go this way. These are all sort of multiples of 45. 225 over here. All right. So if I type in 45, it would go up and enter to finish. All right. So and it's gone up because it assumed again that my 0, 0 is where I got that cursor there now, where I clicked first. So from there, really, it's gone clockwise up 45 degrees. All right. So every time you click somewhere, imagine that you're picking up this little circle here and you're moving into that point there. And that's how you can work out which quadrant you're in and whether you're going minus or positive angles. Now, if I was to do another example, if I went here and I'll go at 14.142 at the angle of 330, was it 335, is it? 335, would that be minus 45? 360 minus 45? No, 315. 315 minus 45, yeah? So if I go, I should know that. If I go 315, like that, that should be the same as minus 45. So if I went line from here again, and I go at, at 14.14, that'll do, at the angle of minus 45, should be exactly the same thing. So what I did then, is if I just move this here, I'll move it into this quadrant here so you can understand it better in there. So I said minus 45, which means it's gone clockwise from the 0. So, but it's the same as going all the way around anti-clockwise to 315. It's still minus 40. It's like a 45 angle. All right. So you can enter your angles either positive or negative. Okay. Oops. So that's the story there. All right. So that's just that's the coordinate system. So basically, that's this little, and a more simplistic version is this guy here. And drawing the spanner is the next thing. So I'll set up the spanner in a second, and we'll do that in the next recording.